Good morning to all the couch listeners. Welcome. Welcome to our Saturday morning show. And our show is about how to cope with a relationship when your partner has a mental health disorder, part 2. So we get the opportunity to talk to Neisha Kelly today. So she'll be joining us. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to bring in my fabulous co-hosts, and they are waiting in the wings. We got Miss Rajanta. Good morning, lovely.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Michelle. How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Sanella. How are you? We just
Morning,
getting
good
started
morning.
this morning. How's
Yeah.
everybody week?
Good.
Good. Work. That's all we do, huh? Go to
Yeah.
work, pay bills, keep
Go
our
to work.
mental health stable.
Yeah.
At least try to, right? With all that we're doing out here in this world. And speaking of this world, ladies, the latest in the news. Has everyone heard about this young lady, Carly Russell?
Yes.
Yes, so
Yes.
everybody's heard about it. Listen, I'm gonna be honest here because on this platform we are honest, we straightforward. I'm sorry, I just have a very hard time understanding what happened here. It's a lot behind this story. It appears every day more and more things are coming out. The chief of police, I believe his name is Nick Dursees. He was saying that they were unable to verify the story. So let's go back. Let's unpack the story. So, what actually happened from your point of view? What did you hear?
I mean, I was upset, like to the point where I wanted to, call out a search party. I heard she was young, she was a young Black woman, medical student, and I thought she was being trafficked. I thought that she was being kidnapped and being trafficked. It was very disturbing for me. It was very disturbing for me.
Mm-hmm. Quite disturbing because in society today, Black people that are missing are not looked for like our white counterparts. So when things like this happen, we are going to get upset because it does impact us, although that person may not be living directly in our community. But this is another Black person out there that is missing. However, this story just does not sound all the way true. Okay, a toddler walking down the street. This is a highway though. Why is it that no one else saw this particular toddler that's supposed to be walking around, and multiple phone calls should have been coming in? Am I crazy, or what do y'all think?
Agreed. They said it was dark.
Oh. Okay.
They said it was dark, but the fear of a toddler, anyone who saw it may have pulled over for that reason.
Multiple people you think would have pulled over.
Would have pulled over for that. If not to see what's going on, out of utter shock. And they claim she was told to stay in her car. I probably would have gotten out of my car too. Because suppose a kid running to the highway. And all these different thoughts, if that was in fact true. I still believed it up until I started hearing all these things. I was thinking human traffic too.
So I thought the human trafficking, but when I heard that they said they found her, but the story said that she came home and she was running through the woods. Like you found her or she came home. So that don't make sense to me. And where were you?
Thank you.
You escaped from somewhere and you ran through the woods to get home. Girl, you was down the street.
I said she's a superhero.
Okay.
They said she booked the hotel. I don't know. This is what social
allegedly. Okay.
Allegedly she booked a hotel 4 days before. What? They said she ordered in a different name. They said she ordered DoorDash or one of them the food deliveries.
Sure, DoorDash. I like DoorDash.
Under the same name that she rented the hotel in. They also said she ordered some Slim Jims or something. She must have had another delivery under that same name. Like, girl, did you
know all that was wrong?
I think it was all for attention.
It was
for attention.
I think so.
Attention or
Yeah.
like a cry of help though? Was it, you think, a cry of help, or was it attention? Was she like just over life at
No,
that
that sounds like
moment?
attention to me. I want to
I
believe.
say
You know me.
attention.
I want to believe a cry of help. You know, I want to believe that so bad. I do, but I really think it may have been some attention, maybe from that man, that
Yes.
boyfriend,
Yep.
from that boyfriend, and he wasn't responding, and maybe he gonna look for me if I'm missing. He gonna
Mm-hmm.
be a part of the watch
Yep.
party, search
Mm-hmm.
party.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean that's extreme.
Yeah.
They said they found her
Yeah.
her wig, right? Her
Come
cell
on
phone,
now.
everything
Yeah.
was seen, and she screamed. So
Yeah.
it was like,
And she watched that movie.
I was engaged.
Taken.
Like, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
That's what they said. She watched the Taken. She
hmm
had
Yeah.
searches. They had searches in her phone, in reference to things like that. Allegedly, I don't
mm,
know.
mm.
I don't like
Mm.
it. She just making us look bad again.
Well, I don't know.
We're all
Her parents
trying
were
to.
crying. Her parents were crying on the news. Like, I was upset. I was upset. So
Mm.
like, why would she do this? She had a lot going on. Her family seemed well put together. So I'm like, help this lady find her baby. Help this lady find her baby.
But
Yes.
Right.
it's not surprising because this isn't the first time it's happened. But now that we have social media, you at this point you really don't know what's the truth, what's not the truth. And
Right.
then you have people who do GoFundMe's and say they have certain
Yes.
illnesses to
Mm-hmm,
get money.
mm-hmm,
So you at this day and
mm-hmm.
age, you have no idea what
Right.
people are capable of. But we know
Right.
people are capable of doing and saying bad things.
Yes.
Right. Right. Do you think it's more prevalent in our community the way we utilize, for example, you said the GoFundMe. I noticed that a lot. A lot of the times, if a person passes away, next thing you know, another GoFundMe is up, scamming people, trying to get money. What do you ladies think? Do you think it's prevalent in our community or across all
I
walks of life?
prevalent amongst
Oh,
Boston life.
oh,
In our
sure.
community, the issue with a lot of us not having life insurance.
Right.
That's a
Mm-hmm.
big issue. I think it is.
Affordable
So I know a lot of people
life
who go
insurance.
for me for the
No.
loss of loved ones, sudden losses of loved ones. So that's very prevalent in our community. Or fish dinners, cooking fish dinners.
Or
You know,
especially if they have like medical issues, it may be hard at the time that they decide to get insurance. It may be hard to get covered.
Yeah.
So I
Due to
agree.
medical, pre-existing
Reasons.
medical
Yes.
conditions, yes.
I know
Even
that
mental
I
health, it's
spoke.
hard to get insured when you have mental health issues,
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed
That's
in
true.
mental health.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I also believe that there's ways around it. Um, After speaking to a life insurance person, but we have to teach our babies and their teens get
mm-hmm.
life insurance when they start working so they can
Yes.
pay into it and make
Mm-hmm.
sure they're doing it correctly because I have it, but doesn't mean that my friends have it.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about it
Mm-hmm.
because we don't talk about living trust, wills,
Mm-hmm.
none of that. And then when you start getting into it, you're like, oh, I want to do it, but where do I go? Who do
Yeah.
I contact? How do we do it?
Right.
I think there needs to be more discussions on getting those type of services,
As
especially for
well as
us.
weeding out the ones that are actually scams. Because that's the fear. We go out, we know we need these things, we go out, we don't know where to start, and then we
Mm-hmm.
run into people who scam us.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
there's legitimate
Mm-hmm.
people out there. So that's why a lot of times people like to use like word of mouth. I would use someone,
Mhm.
if you're having success with them, I'm more than likely, if we're having that conversation, I'm going to use someone who you've used or you may know a little bit about, because that might, it's going to steer me in the right direction, even if I don't use them. You know what I'm saying? It give me some type of idea of what I should be looking for.
Sometimes I think people think when they decide I don't need life insurance, it doesn't matter because when I'm going, I'm going. But
Mm-hmm.
they don't realize it falls on the family to make sure that now you're going, now the burden falls on us.
That's
Yes.
an ignorant way. I'm
It
sorry.
is. It
That's
is.
an ignorant way to to
But they
think.
do it. People, I
Yeah, a
mean, we
lot of
see
people
it.
I
We
know a
do.
lot
see
of
the
people. I know
GoFundMe
a lot of
going
people who feel that way. A lot.
when
So
you
you want
see
your
that.
kids to worry about how they're going to have to bury you and
They're not worried about that
Yeah.
because I'm
People.
going. But
okay.
I think that even setting up a policy for myself what people also don't realize is you're setting your family up, the people that you're leaving behind. So it's important. It was important to me that my beneficiaries are my children. So I have multiple multiple policies for them to include my grandson. But white people set their families up the same way. Because when I'm
Right.
going, I want to make sure you get your lump sum of money so you can do whatever you need to do with it. But we don't set our babies up like that. We're just like, I'm not giving you nothing. How many times have you heard them say, I'm not giving you nothing? I got enough to be buried and that's it. No, no, I want my children to be okay when I'm gone.
That's very important, and I'm glad you're speaking on that because we do need to do that. I make sure I have policies, more than one, because I don't think it's fair to do that. You know, you have, it shouldn't be the responsibility of our loved ones to come up with money to bury us. It's not right. And even though the children, I must express this very highly, you have to get it for children too. Okay. It may be scary because you're like, I don't want to speak that into the child's life. You're not. You're just covering because you don't know. We can have an accident and die tomorrow. You know, same thing with children. We just got to make sure we are covering everyone. And, you know, yes, start from when they're little and just have it, because it's important to have a policy for everyone, because it's about what happens after I leave here. You know, yeah, I'm gone, but why leave a burden on everyone? Why?
People see it as like an extra bill, you know, especially if somebody's really surviving. You know, they don't have, you know, some people see it's an extra bill to pay that they really don't have the money for. They're just trying to eat at the moment.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. So,
but those same people, some of those same people be out hanging out on the weekend.
Got yours. See, they got yours. You know, some, you know, everybody's priorities are different.
That's
yes,
true.
Yes. Yes, that is so true. And we just have to do that. In the comments, I'm gonna read two things in the comment here. This goes back to Carly Russell. By claiming to be kidnapped, she made it bad for real kidnapping victims. Attention seeker, that's not mental health issue. It is a silliness issue. So yes, I mean, making it bad for everyone. How many of us are out here missing? A lot of us.
Real missing.
Really missing.
We found, you know, we looking, family's been looking for years, have not given up hope, you know.
Have you ever heard this though, you ladies here, and even our listeners right now, drop it in the comment box if you ever heard this too. White children or women, their family members are looked for immediately within those 24 hours. But absolutely. When it comes to a Black person, say you and I go in and they, God forbid, you know, we're going in and saying, oh, one of our family members has been kidnapped, especially if they're an adolescent, the first thing that the police will say is, oh, they probably ran away. Well, why do our kids run away, but white kids don't run away? I'm trying to understand what's happening.
They run away, but we're going to find them.
Oh, right.
Okay.
But I've heard this over and over again, like our kids are the runaways. Who told you that? Who said that all of our kids are just runaway? Every person that's missing is a runaway. They always start out that way. And then the family becomes frustrated and they're like, well, forget it. I'll do it myself. We're going to go out and search ourselves. But it is a ongoing type of behavior where, once again, we're not taken seriously. It goes from medical to assistance with the police. I mean, it's so many areas that we're not treated fairly at all. So many.
Well, tell me what areas are we treated fairly?
Zero.
Exactly.
The ones where we take a stand, and then we could be seen as aggressive when we're doing that. Those are the ones that we stand up and make sure that, you know, the point we're trying to make gets across.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's because we have forced it. We have made sure that it's going to happen. It's not given to us at all. You know, even when we deserve it. So we have to stand up and kind of take it, you know, know who we are and know what we stand for. And sometimes could be a lonely place if you don't have the support.
That's right.
That's why forums like this are important, where we come together and try to educate each other and others out there on the needs of society, which they already know, but we're still gonna never give up and keep trying.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But they're
Mm-hmm.
not giving us
We
anything.
have
We
to.
definitely have to stand up for it, and that's so sad.
It is.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
work
we
just as
do.
hard as our counterparts. We do.
Exactly. We work
Yeah.
harder.
Hmm.
Harder.
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 Yes. And we raise our families that way. Like our children, we tell them you got to work 20 times harder. I know I remember that as a child coming up, that you got to work 20 times harder so you can be recognized just to have a job. We still fighting today to wear our hair the way we want to. Who the hell are you? How you
Right.
tell us how to wear our hair? Do we tell you how to wear yours? No.
Right.
But we're fighting constantly for just equality, and we can never get there. Listen, we can go 10 steps ahead, but they find a way to draw us right back. Okay. And they do it, and it's done. And then we just dealing with it. And it's not cool at all to be in this place constantly reminded that we are supposed to be less than. In the comments here, yeah, worth 3/5 of a person. Yeah. What is 3/5 of a person? Does anybody know what that means? Three
I
fifths of a person. Okay.
Not
I've
me.
never seen it. Right. How are you 3/5 of a person? But this is what we deal with day in and day out. So it is I know this is a topic that we can go on and on about, because we have talked about several different topics. I'm just Carly Russell. So can you see how things happen to us, and we could just unpack all of these things? So, we will definitely come back to that topic for sure. But our topic today is how to cope within a relationship with a partner with mental health disorder. Now, our guest, she'll be on shortly, but we can start our discussion about it. So what would that be like to have a person who have a mental health disorder? So let's pick one of them. Let's talk about, most people always talk about somebody being bipolar. So let's kind of talk about what is that like when one person does not have this mental health illness, but yet they're in this relationship with the person with bipolar disorder. How are they getting along with this person? What do you think?
I would just think, depending on the symptoms and whether or not that person is in manic at the moment. The person could be walking on eggshells around this person, trying not to upset that person, because when you're a manic, you might be from 0 to 10. And 10 meaning like a very aggressive, unable to be easily calmed down, unable to be consoled in any way. So I can see it being, a type of relationship that is like unbalanced. I think there may be a lot of people pleasing going on in that relationship, because you want it balanced in relationship, and you want things to go right. You're trying to stay safe, so your only survival is to kind of people please.
So
Yes.
there will also be some more than likely feelings of confusion,
Mm-hmm.
hurt, sadness, a need for support,
Mm-hmm.
feeling unsupported, I should say, because remember, I have this mental illness and you don't.
Yes.
And you can't understand. It may be treated, it may be untreated,
Mm-hmm.
and you may want to understand, but you really don't. Because I probably done abused you and beat you down so much
Mm-hmm.
with words, you don't even want to learn no more. you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired type thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably didn't get no help until I said I was leaving.
Exactly. Even like you say, even undiagnosed mental illness. A lot of people walk around undiagnosed from every reason, not trusting of medical professionals or not believing in it, medication, treatment, alternatives. So I can see, now that I'm leaving, now you want to go get help. You get help. Last 10 years, knocking inside my head. Now you want to get help because you say I'm leaving. I say I'm leaving.
But
And even when I say I'm leaving, you go to maybe 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions.
Yep.
Just to smooth it over.
Yeah.
Yep.
And no change. Or you make one little change and then, oh, I made a change, you didn't recognize it. It's a lot. It's back and forth, but it has something that needs to be worked on together. If you decide, whether that's relationship with your mother, relationship with your partner, a relationship with your child, doesn't matter. You constantly have, because mental illness is real, and you need to get an understanding of it. You really do.
Yes. I think that's first, to get an understanding. The person that's not the person that has the mental health issue, but the person that has to deal with the person. I think if they don't find a support group or someone, an outlet, I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
an outlet,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that's when it becomes worse.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mhm.
it also becomes that topic. Maybe I, as the caregiver, need to go get some mental health, go sit down on somebody's couch and have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation
Mm-hmm.
so that I can get out and they can also help me. A lot of times I think people don't realize that when someone is sick of an illness,
Mm-hmm.
they don't do the research to find out what it really is that this person is going through. They simply see she's crazy or he's crazy or I can't deal with it. But do the research and find out. Like sometimes I've been doing reading research on different things. Maybe it's something we're eating, something in our food.
Mhm.
There's an imbalance somewhere. So we're not doing enough research on trying to heal ourselves, not just mentally, but physically.
Yes.
True. That is very true.
And
But
it could be triggering, I'm sorry, it could also be triggering some of those symptoms, those
Mhm.
mental health symptoms, maybe some of the foods that are
Right.
being eaten or consumed. You
Right.
know,
Now, Michelle, who you talked about the responsibility of the person who, the caregiver. So, whose responsibility is it really to kind of be educated on this? What do you
Um
think about? Do you think it's the caregiver's responsibility, or do you think it's the person with the mental illness responsibility to educate
sometimes
the caregiver?
I feel like sometimes people with mental health illness, they may not even know that
they have it.
they have it. So, and I'll take myself as put myself as an example. If I have a partner who's dealing with, you see different behaviors, because sometimes you see behaviors in your partner that they may not know they're doing.
Yes.
So I would start researching or finding out. I have a really good doctor, so I would call her like, listen, XYZ is going on. You have to have a relationship with somebody to figure out what's going on. I think even a lot of times in even just regular relationships, when things start going south, people exit the building. They don't even try to figure out what's actually going on. But if you know that your partner is having mental health, like you could see somebody having a breakdown, things just change. It's important for me as the caregiver to get myself some help. So I can't help you if I'm not helping myself.
Mhm. Exactly. I'm gonna bring Naisha in so we can get her in as well into this conversation. So, good morning. How are you?
Good morning,
Good
ladies.
morning.
Welcome. Welcome. We just getting into the topic, talking about again how to cope in a relationship when one partner has a mental health disorder. So we were getting really heavy into understanding the dynamics of the relationship and what happens. And we use the example of a person with bipolar disorder. What should we do? Well, the education should come also not just for, or it should be there for not just the person going through it who may not even know that they're going through it, but both parties when they realize, hey, something is not right, something is going on. So that is where we are now. So what would be your take on that also? Like when you're not aware and then when you become aware, what happens to the dynamic of that relationship once you become aware you have the mental health disorder?
Well, the one thing I say now, looking back, when I was dating, when I didn't know I had a mental disorder, it was a very dysfunctional relationship. It was very toxic, and I was very dysfunctional and very toxic. So, at that point, my anxiety, when I would get anxious or feel overwhelmed, I would act out in anger. I would lash out, and I would do things, that I felt I had no control over because I didn't even realize I was dealing with a mental disorder. And even after I found out that I did have a mental illness, the some of the behavior still was there. I'm not going to say it went away because I know I was bipolar. That'd be lying. But it is a little bit harder to bear, especially when you're dating someone who has a disorder as well, but is not ready to deal with it. Because you may be I'm in a stage where I came into a stage where I was like, okay, I got to deal with this, right?
Mhm.
But then I was dating someone that wasn't ready to deal with their issues. And so that made it hard for me. I couldn't really bond with them because they didn't understand where I was coming from
Hmm.
with mental
Okay.
illness. They just thought I was just bugging, I was being insecure, I was just crazy.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
often that's a common occurrence when people like, oh, I got this girl, she crazy, yo, she crazy, or even a guy, he crazy girl. He tell me what to wear, he knocked me upside my head, So we hear these things often. We hear these stories and these scenarios often. And it can clearly be people that walk around undiagnosed with mental illnesses.
For sure. For sure. I'm going to turn to the comment. This is a great question. This can be answered by all of us, but those of us that are clinicians on here, this is really directed to us. As current clinicians, do you have any previous relationships with people that have mental health issues? If you could travel back, how would you handle the relationship with the knowledge you have?
Hmm.
Can you say that one more time? Because I'm still.
Sure. As current clinicians, did you have any previous relationships with people that have mental health issues? If you could travel back, how would you handle the relationship with the knowledge you have? So, with our present knowledge that we have as a clinician, how will that's like stepping back with the knowledge we have now and addressing it with the person in that relationship. Um,
Listen, I'm gonna let y'all take that because my mom might be listening. Okay.
okay. Well, listen. I think in my past relationship, you don't know that a person, what the person is actually going through or what they've been through, but they display these weird behaviors too, like flying off the handle for no reason, like Neisha described. Okay, flying off the handle for no reason, have a paranoid state that they go through. You look at it and you're like, what the heck is going on with this person? Picking arguments for no reason, just starting them because they can. And then looking back, now that I am a clinician, I can see that that person had a real mental health issue. Is the person not diagnosed? Yes. I think till this day may not even recognize certain behaviors
Yeah.
still, but it's not up to me because I'm not even with the person, so it doesn't matter. But looking back, I think I would have handled it differently because I would have had the knowledge. So then it would have been my choice to maybe try to present it in a soft way, or just say maybe this is just not for me. But when you're young, also in a relationship, you don't even know what you're really dealing with, so you're trying to stick it out like, okay, well, maybe
Yeah.
they just having a bad day today, or they're not, whatever the issue
Yeah.
is, you're trying to hang in there. But then when is enough,
Yes.
because the person is not stable. So
Yes.
you're really, what danger are you possibly putting yourself in? You
Mhm.
can love the person, but you can love them from a distance if it's unhealthy for you. And
Yeah.
that's what I would say to that, because knowing it now, you have to begin to look at it like, how do I help myself too? And I also want to say this for every one of us, even on here and those listening. We got to put ourselves first, as in loving ourselves by knowing ourselves. So if you know that something is wrong and your self-awareness begins to kick in, it's not that you don't dislike the other person. You got to start working on you. So looking at individual counseling if you need it, and then have them do it. Because here's the thing, as the person in the relationship, they may need the therapy just to understand how to work with you because they don't know. So
Yeah.
I would say seek it out on both ends and then come back together if you choose to, because that's the healthiest way to do it. Look, back in the day, nobody told us this stuff.
Mhm.
We learning it now.
Yep.
Your feedback,
So
lady.
let me answer that real quick. I was going to take the easier route, which would have been to discuss my brother, because you know that I love him as my brother. So that would have been an easier route. But I'm just going to choose a different relationship because we are talking about those type of relationships. So I too believe that the person today is undiagnosed. So it's not only mental health, but it's
Mhm.
also substance use,
Mhm.
And I kind of knew about the substance use, but not so much the mental health. But I kind of just, back then, I just got away from it. I just ran because that's all I knew what to do,
Mm-hmm.
because it was affecting me and how I was functioning,
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a while to do that. Well, not a while, but longer than I wanted to take to do it, I should say. And today, if I could have went back then, who I am today, I would have tried to get in some counseling, to get a better understanding of what I need to do for me. Because now I'm out here and I'm running and trying to figure it out and figure out how I got hurt, why am I getting hurt, what can I do to stay away from those type of relationships when I needed to be healed because I had been used, abused,
Mm-hmm.
be down emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Trying to help someone because that is my nature to help.
Mm-hmm.
So you can lose yourself in trying to help someone. So I think then I should have been in counseling, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because it could have put my fire out for wanting to help. You know what I'm saying? And it did a little bit. I just didn't help that person, but I moved on. But it still opened up areas for me where it could have been really challenging for me to get into a relationship with someone who has, and then they get good at hiding it. You see? So what about the people you meet that hide their mental health challenges or their substance use? What do you do?
Mm.
So what I would have done then was maybe run away. What I do today is still try to get away from my sanity, but I know I need some counseling. I need some therapy. I need somebody to bounce this stuff off of, because at the end of the day, you're hurt
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And hurt
and
Yes.
people, hurt
changed.
people.
Let's say hurt and changed, possibly forever.
Yes.
It does something to your psyche.
Yeah.
So, Neisha, I'm gonna go back to you. So you're hearing a lot of what we're saying. So what would you say to, let's say, Sanella, about, what does that look like for someone that is now dealing with someone that, if she becomes aware now of the mental health disorder, she
Mhm.
understands what's going on, she gets therapy for it. What would you say to her about staying encouraged, or what decisions you make moving forward if you have to leave? So what would you suggest to her?
The first thing I would say is that old adage, hurt people, so we can't continue to both be in a situation where we're both hurting, right? So I think it's important that she said, whether you're dealing with someone with mental illness or not, I think it's important that she said she saved herself. She tried to get therapy for herself and try to better herself as a person. Because when you're dealing with people like myself that may have a mental illness and maybe even masking it, that's traumatic and that's causing trauma to your partner, whether you
Mm,
realize it or not. Like you don't want to be traumatizing, but you are traumatizing them by exposing them to you, especially if you don't want to get help. And even if you get help, you don't have a full understanding of your triggers, what
Mm-hmm.
makes you set you off, or even sometimes you can manipulate the situation, as I have done, so that I can mask some of those behaviors so the other person doesn't notice as much. So I'm
mm,
gonna
Mhm.
be honest about that.
Mhm.
yes.
So what
Thank
do you
you for
say to
bringing that up.
yeah, what do you say to a person that's trying to hang in there with their spouse despite them, dealing with the challenges of, being with someone with a mental illness? What do you say about someone that's trying to hang in there? Like, how much time should they give? What should they be doing? How can they support the significant
I
other?
think the best way to support is like to tell that person, I love you, but I recognize that you're going through you're having these issues. I just think that maybe counseling might help you, beyond what I can help you with. I love you. I want to stick by you, but I can't support you if you're sick like this. If you had a physical illness, you would go to the doctor. You would get help. You would go to physical therapy or something. So treat this that same way. That's how I would look at it.
Very good point. Very good. I'm gonna
Yeah.
play devil's advocate for a second, and let's look at it from the flip side of the person that's in the relationship with the person that has the mental health disorder, and they're cruel to them. cruel, nasty, say things that is just out of order. That's why you crazy. You get on my nerve. You need to take your pills and stuff like that. Let's address that. How hurtful can that be to the person that is experiencing this mental health disorder, i.e., bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, those different things? What do you ladies say to that?
That's not so you're not supporting someone by speaking to them and handling them that way. If you are that frustrated and you do not want to be bothered, please leave, because you're contributing to the trauma or
That's right.
creating trauma. You can't support me, because if you recognize that I have a mental illness and you are so frustrated and angry that you would speak to me. If I had cancer, you wouldn't be speaking to me that way. And it's ups and downs and hurts and all kinds of things that happen with that. You gotta support people. You don't support. I don't want that kind of support, because I'm going to tell you, you could go ahead. I'm going to deal with my illness on my own. I'll find someone else who may be able to support, love or not. And maybe that's what I'm saying today, because I'm not an addict, but I would not want that type of support. That's what I would say. I wouldn't. That's not support to me. That's not love. That's not care. It may be frustration. So I guess if I love you that much, I may direct you to some counseling, or reach out to some of your friends, some support groups, something. But I can't allow you to talk to me like that, because that's beating me down more. That's going to aggravate. That's going to trigger because you don't know what I heard growing up, and how that may be sending me back, or what abusive relationship I may have come out of. And that was triggered after I've done all that I can to grow and support this. What I want is a loving relationship. And you speak to me like that, maybe you don't love me no more. Maybe you just don't, and that could happen.
Yeah.
I love me, and I have to get support
Yes.
somewhere else. That's not supportive at all.
That is not supportive. And this is on a, when you think about it with a mental health disorder, and we can just say on a normal basis with basic relationships, if the relationship is toxic, this is what happens with the toxicity in this relationship, where you have the people so nasty to that person or each other, and it's back and forth, and it's the re-traumatizing, and going back to what Neisha said, that hurt people thing going on here. But you're hurting the person more, knowing that they have a mental health disorder. So my job now is I'm gonna get up and remind you every day in the most hurtful way that you're not stable.
It's invalidating too. It's invalidating because, and I say this, and it's no disrespect to this term, but I just personally don't like it. High functioning really bothers me to hear people say that, because when someone says to me, and I've had it I'm gonna give you an example. I had a family member do this to me. Oh, are you acting like that because you didn't take your meds? Oh, you should take your meds. And just kept antagonizing me, and just berating me about the fact that I took medication at all. And I had to put them to the side eventually and say to them, that's very hurtful when you speak to me like that, because what I go through is a struggle. And yes, I take my medication. Sometimes I don't always take it as prescribed, yes. And I've gotten into it with them about that. But when you say things like that, it makes me feel like you don't, like, it's invalidating. It feels like you don't empathize with what I'm going through. Instead, you're making a mockery of what I'm going through, and that's hurt. So,
Yeah. Exactly. So it just creates to me more problems within the relationship, even with a family relationship, as you described. That in itself is unfair to you. You hear that, and that's being told to you. You don't want to hear that over and over again. You know what you're already going through, and to tell someone that's just like even talking to a person that have substance abuse disorder, or someone that's heavy. You keep telling them, oh, that's why you fat, this is the, but you think that's supposed to tell them, okay, I'm not going to be fat no more, I'm going to stop eating. No, what you're actually doing is causing them to eat more. That's what they're getting ready to do, because you're depressing them. So now you're telling me I'm fat. Okay, well, I'm going to keep eating then. Okay, so it does the total opposite of what it's supposed to do. Like
Right.
you said, medication. No one has to tell you you're taking meds. You know that already. If you're taking it every day,
Hmm.
to say that, and that's humiliating. I'm pretty sure it was humiliating to you to hear that in front of everybody.
Yeah, and when I called them on it, it was so hurtful to the point where I have an issue with confrontation. So it was hard for me to verbalize how I was feeling. So I had to sit here and write an email to this family member to express what I felt by them doing that, berating me like that,
Mm-hmm.
and oh, I was just joking. It was just, I just thought I was being funny, and no, I broke it down to them that they weren't, and it really bothered me. So
Mm-hmm.
when I get on edge when I'm asked, oh, did you take your meds? Like I can't have a reaction to something without it being, oh, she probably didn't take her meds today. I'm
Yes.
allowed to react um sometimes in a way that maybe I'm sad about something. Like let me have my emotions. That's why I said high functioning. The reason why that term makes me uncomfortable is because just because I can say what my triggers are or what I'm going through doesn't mean I'm not triggered and doesn't mean I'm not in crisis. I, I
Mm-hmm.
that's why I struggle with that term.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe to everyone what a crisis is? What is that? Because many people don't know what that is like.
Well, manic people confuse manic and depressive, I think. And when I mean confused, I mean like when someone's really, really happy or
Mm-hmm.
they're like bouncing off the walls, happy or overexcited. People think, oh, she just having a moment. Oh, she just probably high on life or whatever. Da da da. And they don't understand that people being in crisis doesn't always mean they're laying on their floor crying and it's a pill bottle, not for lack of a better term, a pill bottle next to them. Sometimes crisis means going to a store. I've done this. Going to a store and dropping a crazy amount of money on items. Coming home, hiding the receipt, and spending until there's nothing left, and then just having yourself crash and being depressed. But you want to keep this happy image, so you're like, oh, everything's fine. I got new items. I got these new material things, whatever. Da da da. But you're in crisis, but you're not saying it and people see you happy, so they think you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they think you're
Okay.
okay.
So does
They think
crisis, would you say crisis, does it refer to somebody being in mania or
It
being
could be either. It could be depression, and it could be mania, and it could be a combination of both.
okay?
So crisis can look like that. Like we have to change what we think crisis look like because I think as clinicians, y'all do this well, where y'all identify certain triggers that we have and things like that for us. Because sometimes even I don't see it. Like I'm like, oh, I'm doing whatever, da da da. I'm fine, but I'm really in crisis, and I hadn't even recognized it, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
go to the store spending a crazy amount of money. I'm like, oh well, whatever, but it's feeding into that addictive behavior that I have with compulsive spending. It's feeding into that, so therefore, it's making me in crisis because now I'm going to be without. I'm giving into my financial impulses in an addictive manner. It's not just retail therapy there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Now,
That's a
would
Mm.
crisis moment.
would you say that your mental illness brings on different addictions or different compulsions as well? What do you think?
Yes, yes, I do. I do. But I think the one thing I find is that with my addictive behaviors, they have some of the similar triggers, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I could feel alone and I could feel like depressed and so now I'm shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Or I may feel alone and depressed and in the past I'll pick up a drink
Mm-hmm.
and I would
Mm.
drink till I black out. Like it's not just substance abuse or alcohol abuse. It's so many levels to addiction. You know?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And they
Mm.
come in clusters. I'm glad you spoke about that. A lot of people don't know addictions actually come in clusters. So you can
Mhm.
have one addictive addiction and another addiction all in one and combined with the mental illness. It's called co-occurring. So I appreciate you sharing that, Naisha.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, that you shared that with us. And I hope our listeners are beginning to understand a little bit more also what a crisis is like, i.e., also a manic phase. So if there's a phase that you're going through, this is what Naisha described. She described her phase, what she's going through. Now, she can't tell you how long it's going to be. No one can, but it's a phase that you go through. I also like the fact you talked about a trigger. Now, a trigger can be many, many things. You can actually trigger a person based on possibly what you might have on that day, could be triggering them, could be a hairstyle, glasses, a word you said. Those things can trigger. Now, I'm not saying to you that you have to watch the way you present yourself, but watch how the person is reacting to you. That's what you're looking for. Even
Yeah.
in a relationship with the person, I want to tie this all into relationships because that's what we're talking about. So if you're in a relationship with a person, and guess what? That person may know some of their triggers and they're going to tell you, please don't use that as a weapon to do this to them. Because I think, again, if you are a mean spirited person and you don't know how to handle being in this relationship with a person that may have a mental health disorder, do not be in that relationship with them if you know that this is not what you're there for. If you find yourself doing things that you shouldn't be doing, using their triggers against them, get out because you're not helping them.
Not
Sunella
helping.
said that. Get out. There's no need for you to be there because you're re traumatizing them. And furthermore, that person may come to a point where they violently come at you because they've had enough of you. So be careful what you're doing in these relationships. You don't love a person if you intentionally do things to them, humiliate them in front of someone else. You get in front of your company or your friends and your family, and then you go, you know, she ain't on her medication right now, or he ain't on his medication right now. And then they pause because they can't believe you just said that.
Right.
And then you go, oh, wow, what happened? Why are you acting like that? Are you serious? You can't be. You can't be serious and not think that this person is not going to feel some type of way.
Right.
You know, no one likes humiliation. So, you know, toxicity. I know, Sanella, we were going to talk about that a little bit, the differences, because there's differences in the relationship. So we would like for you all to understand that difference.
So, I pulled up this. I was doing a little bit of research, and I see. I guess you got two links going down through the bottom of the.
Yes, we do.
So that
Uh-huh.
that's two of them, but I can't find this last one. But I know they were talking about types of toxic relationships and where they begins. They gave some little key points like toxic behavior versus healthy behaviors.
Mhm.
Toxic behaviors could range from being insecure, jealous, negative, self-centered, critical, demeaning, distrusting, abusive, and disrespectful. Then they gave healthy behavior to look like secure, loving, positive,
Mhm.
giving, selfless, encouraging, uplifting, trustworthy, compassionate, and respectful.
Mhm.
Those are just normal things that we should be experiencing every day. However, there when you have challenges in your life and you may be dealing with someone who has a undiagnosed uh, mental mental disorder, or perhaps even a diagnosed mental disorder, the person who's in a relationship owes themselves a responsibility to kind of educate themselves on what's going on. And I mean, if that's mental health, physical health, you need to know what's going on with your partner,
Mhm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you gotta present that with love. You gotta be willing to get this information with love. Because if I'm struggling with mental health and I find that you're not approachable, how am I going to tell you that these thoughts that are going on in my mind? I'm not going to feel comfortable. How about I'm taking, you know, I got mental health, mental illness, and I'm taking my medication, but for some reason, I just don't feel like taking it today. And you know, I didn't take it, and you slap me with the fact that I didn't take my medicine, or maybe I did take my medicine and I'm still acting that way. And you respond to me like that, I'm not going to tell you that I'm two steps away from being manic, and I really need.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to go ahead and be manic because you're going to just say whatever you're going to say anyway. and
Or,
to,
Yeah.
or
and to,
maybe it takes time for your medication to adjust, because when you start that new medication regimen, it takes time,
mhm,
for it to
Mhm.
adjust into your
mhm,
system. And maybe it's not even the right mixture. Maybe
mhm.
you need this,
Mhm.
maybe that. Maybe it's not the right
Mhm.
dosage. So it's a lot of things that go into medication and a medication regimen, getting you balanced to where you need to be.
So what do you think about if your spouse is having mental health issues or having something is going on? What do you think about having an intervention with the family? Because I think that's also important, that the person that has to live with the person that has mental health has support from their family. So do
Absolutely.
we sit down and we all have bring this person together? We love you, have a conversation. Maybe you need to get your meds adjusted. Maybe we need, I don't know. I'm just asking, is that
There's
You
levels to
know
that.
what you know the person that you're in a relationship and whether they're going to be willing to sit down and have that hard talk
With their family.
with their
Maybe
family. So some people might be they yeah, okay, I'm good and I'm off and I know I need some help. Thank y'all for coming to me. You might get that response from some people. Maybe they, but you might get that response. I don't know who do you think you are. Take a look at yours. What are
yeah,
you doing? You need to work on yourself.
work on you and your man.
I
Don't
might
forget
have
to work
Bob,
on your man.
but you an addict. Oh, I might have you. You know how family. Come
I
on,
agree. I
I
agree.
think that's a great suggestion.
It's a great
It's
It
good.
is.
Let's coming together. Showing support. But if not, if you done been beating me up all this time and now you want to sit down and have a meeting with me about how we could work it out.
But and I absolutely agree, because you have both sides. But in the instance that me as the caregiver, I'm over that edge. So
Mm-hmm.
now at this point, I'm grasping at anything that I can possibly take
Mm-hmm.
a hold of. And maybe the next, maybe it's not a group of people. Maybe it's that one person in the family. And we can even use addiction as an example. I have one person in my family who is, I believe, an active user. And
Mm,
then they have a sibling who too is an active user. But we know we can go to the her and say, "Hey, we need to sit down and have a conversation. What are we going to do? What can we do to make you better?" But for him, it's like it's going to go in one ear and right out the other. So we don't sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
But I think that at some point it is important to have the conversation. It doesn't have to be 10 people, but it has to be a support me and a support person to say we're here to support you. And yes, with any addict or mental health, they are going to come back with some of those things you say. But do we not try because of how they're going to react? It's only out of love. And maybe it's how it's presented.
That's true.
Mhm.
Now, how
Mhm.
do
And
you
me
feel
too,
about
I've
that?
been on
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been on the receiving end of an intervention, and my biggest takeaway was this. I didn't have an issue with my family, my siblings sitting me down to say, okay, we love you and we need you to do better with this or that, how can we help you? But I had to remind them too that you also have to, and this is what any relationship I feel like, you have to be quick to encourage and slow to criticize. And I say that because you can't just, oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing, and but then when I'm doing good, you have nothing to say. But the minute I do something wrong, now it's like World War III going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then I felt, on a level, I felt attacked in a way. Not that they were coming at me, but I'm just being honest with how I was feeling when the intervention was when I was put in the intervention. And at first I felt attacked, like, dang, I'm trying to live my life and they telling me not to, so, but thankfully I was receptive to change, and I was receptive to listening to what they had to say, because it did feel good to hear that they love me enough to sit me down and say, we need you to get stronger in this area or that area. And we're willing to help you get stronger in this area and that. And so in that respect, I felt supported. So I
Right.
didn't. I was able to let my guard down and really listen and hear what they had to say. So
Mhm.
intervention is saying they can go either way sometimes because you can
Mhm.
feel attacked, and then you're like, I don't want to hear it, and then you could be like, you know what, I do need to change this behavior. So, but I do agree with if you at least if you try, then at least you try. You know, sometimes you can't win for losing, but at least you try.
I would
Then
say,
they'll know they're being supported.
I would say, give it a try because that's the type of person that I am.
Hmm.
I want to see you do better. I do have this high hope for you. Hopefully, I can instill you to continue to have hope that you will catch it. But
Mm-hmm.
we must be careful because we are only human. We must be careful of how we're calling ourselves supporting these people because we supporting from a hurt or angry place or from
Frustrated.
love and
Mm-hmm.
understanding
But
place.
it could be, and I'm gonna use myself again as an example. It could be all places.
Yes,
It could be
absolutely.
it's all of them because and I'll put myself out there. My father is the active user, and
Mm,
it is frustration because you've been using drugs for all my life. So knowing him, you have a conversation, it is going to go in one ear and right out the other. He's going to continue to do what he wants to do. But I think for it, me as the oldest, it's important that me and my siblings have that conversation because I think they're going to be more devastated that we didn't try to help him,
Mm-hmm.
because when something happens to him, they're going to be people turn around and say we should have did
we
more.
should have.
We
Exactly.
should have did more.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
how do you do what does doing more look like? Because
Hmm.
after the conversation, now I'm frustrated that you are not willing to do better.
Mm-hmm.
So me
Mhm.
personally, I'm not having that conversation. I don't want to have that conversation. But
Because you
that's
get burnt out with trying to do the best that you can. And, how much more can you do? You cannot force the person into recovery. Can't force them. You can't
Yeah.
force a person to take their medication if they have a mental health disorder. You can't force a person sometime to even leave an abusive relationship because they have to come to all of these people have to come to the realization that it is me that has to want this. I can work for you all I want, but it is to the up to the person that wants to make the significant change. What can we do is support them from the outside and then be there if they feel like they are falling, because that's the only way that we can show the support without us becoming resentful, angry, frustrated, and all of the above emotions that we can honestly go through.
Right.
That's the truth, you know.
That was wonderful. And it was well put. You
Hmm.
guys are taking me to church, and you guys have also taken me to a group therapy session. So I
Okay.
Yes, yes, we have we definitely have. So, ladies, we are getting to the end of our show. So, I would like for all of us to present a takeaway for our listeners that are out there. So, again, our topic today was how to cope with a relationship when one of your partners have a mental health disorder. From today, what would we like for our closing remarks to be?
I'll say be compassionate for
Mhm.
others because you don't know what somebody else is going through. And how would you feel if you were on the receiving end?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I just want to share that mental health problems, they don't define who you are, neither do addictions. There's something that we experience. We walk in the rain and we feel the rain, but that doesn't mean we are the rain. So we experience something, that doesn't mean that's who we are. It's just experience that we have throughout our journey called life.
Yes.
Okay. And I just have a couple of things. Know when you should bring up mental illness. Take a check on how your partner is feeling. Take care of your partner. Take care of yourself. Stay well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Try to get some counseling together if you can. Encourage your partner to seek support. If there's a domestic violence situation, please be safe. We have the domestic violence hotline number of 1-800-799-7233. Again, that's 1-800-799-7233. because sometimes that's the end result of or one of the components of mental health challenges in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that you guys, my takeaway is you guys give me encouraged to change the way I look at things. And what I mean by that is the way I look at how I'm coming off to family and friends and people that I'm in relationships with, that to be fair, I also have to show compassion. I also have to show grace and mercy too. I can't just be like, oh, they're just beating up on me and they just ganging up on me. You know, so the takeaway for me is to recognize and be accountable for my stuff, basically. And where I'm falling short in things too in a relationship as a person with a mental health disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And the last thing I'm going to say to wrap this all up is having open communication. Try your best to be a listener versus doing a lot of talking at the person. Neisha said that today, that, barking at a person is not always the best thing to do. So sometimes you may have to be the listener, hear what they're saying, and then just even say, I suggest versus you need to. That's a different way of saying it. I suggest you can possibly reach out to someone, or I suggest I can be here for you. It's your wording. So be careful how you're communicating with a person. Be very sensitive to their needs and look at what is going on. Pay attention to possible triggers. If you know the triggers, avoid the triggers as much as possible. So just remember, be there for the person, and then they will learn to be there for you. Both of you together can work together. There's support groups out there for mental health disorder. You don't have to necessarily go to therapy, but you can actually go to some type of support group. They're out there. As family members, you can create your own support group. As you all come together, take one person to initiate that. You don't necessarily have to have a degree to do this. This is just all about supporting each other. So that is what I would like for you all to think about when you are in a relationship with someone on the outside watching the relationship. Just try to be mindful, but open communication is the biggest key here. So this is what I would like everyone to walk away with. And we really appreciate you all coming on and listening to us this morning, and we try our best to give you great content, things that you can walk away from. So remember to follow us on Facebook, go to YouTube and subscribe there, and you can keep up with us. And also pick your favorite live of your stream where you can go and listen. Apple Podcasts, Google, you can find us there. So Spotify. So please follow us, and remember to email us and let us know what type of topic you would like us to talk about. And again, welcome to On the Couch, and thank you for joining us this morning. Have a blessed weekend and a wonderful week, and we will see you in 2. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for joining On the Couch this evening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and if you want to contact Dr. Diamond, you may reach her at candidconversations.dr.d@gmail.com. Have a great evening, and we will see you on the next show.